Today we're asking the question, does the Bible leave room for aliens? So let's get started. Well, today's icebreaker is kind of obvious. I want to know if you believe in aliens. And I'll be honest with you, before we started this series, before I heard the message that Nick has for us today, I didn't really care that much. I've just seen it in the movies, didn't really think about it very much. But after hearing Nick's message, I started to think maybe there are aliens out there. So make sure to put your answer in the comments. It always surprises me who is very passionate about this subject. So feel free to put your best points out there of whether there are aliens or there aren't aliens. I'd love to hear your thoughts. With that, let's hear from Nick.
What do you know when it comes to aliens? Well, you might know a little more than you realize. What do you know? You know that aliens tend to like to phone home. Everybody knows that. What else do you know? Well, you know that aliens are big into 70s and 80s music, but it tends to make their brains explode. What do you know about aliens? You know that if you spend a lot of time and devotion, you can actually communicate with aliens. You know that Mel Gibson is really brave, but not nearly as brave as Will Smith, who keeps getting called on over and over and over again to deal with, especially the violent aliens. So you got a lot of alien knowledge in your head, whether you like it or not. You know a lot about aliens, but you may not know as much as I do. Yeah, that's right. I have taken it a step further than just the movies to try to discover what we can know about aliens. In fact, a group of friends of mine, they were pastor friends of mine, we one day on a trip stopped in Roswell, New Mexico, because we wanted to discover what's the whole talk about Roswell and the alien landing and all that. We wanted to find out more. Well, all we found was an alien-themed McDonald's. There really wasn't much there to discover. And so a few years later, we went to the real source of it all. We went to Area 51, the genuine, the true Area 51. We went there, we drove in. It was the smallest town you would have ever seen, just a few trailers, a convenience store, and a diner. But we were going looking for answers. And so after our lunch, I asked the waitress, I said, "Tell me about Area 51. She said, "Air Force Base." I said, "Come on, there's got to be more." She said, "Nope, it's an Air Force Base." And I said, "Really?" She leans in. She whispers, no joke. She says, "There are cameras everywhere. I'm not telling you anything." She backs up and she says, "It's an Air Force Base." And we're like, that's right, that's what we came here for, the conspiracies. And so we started into the car and we started driving out to where Area 51 was really located, which was about 2 hours from that diner. And we drove through this mountainous area. We drove past what we believed could have been a mutated cow carcass. Kept driving. We didn't know if we were going to find it or not, but eventually we look in the distance and we see this gate. And then we look to the side and we see a truck pointed toward us up on the hills. We kept driving toward the gate, We parked at the gate and we saw all these signs that read, "Do not pass. If you pass, you will get shot." I mean, it was sign after sign after sign after sign. And a little further, all we saw was like this little shed and a few more trucks pointed right at us. And then we see the truck that was a little ways off. That truck actually drove and started following us. We looked around, we surveyed the area, and we decided we want to live another day. And so we went back in the car and drove back home. And so after all this, after traveling to Roswell, after traveling to Area 51, what I have to tell you is that my knowledge of aliens extends only to my movie watching. I really haven't learned that much more through the travels. But I will say I am interested in this stuff, and there are all kinds of questions that, we can speculate about. One in particular that the movies doesn't really tell us is, do aliens and Christianity mix? Does Jesus and extraterrestrials go together? Does the Bible leave room for the existence of aliens? And so we're going to talk about this because you might be surprised to hear that there have been some major Christian leaders who were open to the idea of aliens. And at least for me, that's a surprise to me because I grew up in the church where I always believed that you couldn't believe in aliens, that was sort of secular, that was bad, like that was the fantasy stuff. You got to separate out those things. You can't really believe in that stuff. You might be surprised to know that Billy Graham, who was a famous evangelist who actually happened to advise different presidents throughout the 20th century, was pretty open to the existence of aliens. And so was C.S. Lewis, who was this avid Christian author who actually wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. He was open to the idea of aliens. So I'm going to tell you 4 objections to seeing aliens as a Christian, and we're going to talk about the responses to each of those 4. The first objection is this, is that the Bible doesn't mention aliens. And for something as important as aliens, the Bible would have something to say. And because the Bible doesn't mention it, there cannot be existence of aliens. Well, here's what I have to say about that, is that the Bible leaves out a lot of important stuff. The Bible doesn't talk about DNA or dinosaurs. The Bible doesn't talk about America. The Bible doesn't even talk about Panda Express's signature orange chicken. I mean, there is some really important, valuable information that is just left out of the pages of scriptures. What's going on there? Well, the Bible has a purpose and there's a trajectory. There's a story that the Bible is telling. In fact, the Bible doesn't really tell everything about what's going on in the world. The Bible focuses on one corner of the world, the nation of Israel and the family of Abraham and Jesus and his followers. And it stays pretty small, even though it has this trajectory of impacting the whole world. There's still not a whole lot that gets mentioned. We don't hear about all of the major historical events going on even in that time. And so if the Bible's going to leave out different things going on in the world and focus just on a corner of the world, doesn't it make sense that the Bible might just be focusing on a corner of the universe? For objection number 2 is this. It deals with creation. And it goes like this, is if aliens do exist, then that means we have a lot more evidence for life coming about through natural causes, that we don't need God for there to be life. And what I would say to that is I would actually point to William Paley, a philosopher in 1802. He actually came up with this analogy called the watchmaker analogy. And he said, just imagine with me for a second that you grew up in the forest, maybe in the jungle, and you had no contact with civilization, and you stumble on a watch. Of course, he didn't say a Fitbit, but let's go with it. And he'd say that you would see the purpose and design in the watch, and you wouldn't necessarily think that this must have grown on a tree. You would think there must be some other intelligent mind behind this design. There's too much purpose in its design and function that without any intelligent designer. And so I would take it a little step further. And of course, he takes this and applies this to something like human beings and says, it's really hard to see the design and the beauty of the human body and say that just came about through natural causes without any intelligent design behind that. And I'd say, well, what if you found a second watch? Would that give less reason to believe in an intelligent designer? I think it might actually give more reason to believe that there's an intelligent designer behind such complex, purposeful works of art. So for objection number 3, this one's a little bit more drawn out, and this deals with Jesus. Basically, it goes like this, is if Jesus became a human being and died for human beings, his incarnation and his atonement, then there can't be aliens because Jesus didn't do that for aliens. And so here's my response, and I actually break it into 4 parts here. And what I want to do is I want to give a little mnemonic, a memory device to help you remember these 4 parts. So go ahead with me. We're just going to close our eyes right here. And again, this is just a memory device. And I want you to picture a sheep, maybe a cartoon sheep if that's a little more natural. And we're going to just picture a sheep. And this might be weird, but kind of picture wings growing out of the sheep, these big, massive wings. And then the sheep uses those wings to flap higher and higher and actually flies on top of this huge skyscraper, lands on the roof, and grabs a candy bar that the sheep finds on the roof and kind of pulls the wrapper off with its teeth and eats the candy out of the candy wrapper. Okay? Open your eyes. You just memorized the 4 different responses to Jesus and aliens, okay? Here it is. Starts with sheep. This one comes from Jesus' own parable of the lost sheep. He says there's a shepherd who had 100 sheep and one went missing, so he leaves the 99 to go and search for the one. C.S. Lewis speculates that if there are aliens, then what if those aliens never sinned? What if they never disobeyed God, they never fell, and so they were kind of like the 99 sheep that never went missing? And so what makes human beings special isn't because we're so great or because we do anything really brilliant at all. It's because we sinned. We were the lost sheep. So that's one way of looking at it, is that aliens never sinned. They never fell. They didn't need Jesus to incarnate and to atone for their sin. The second response is, you imagine the sheep kind of growing wings, as strange as that is. Well, those wings are angel wings. So let's think about angels for a second here. Is angels relate to God in a different way than human beings do? We know that 1/3 of the angels rebelled against God, but Jesus never takes on the form of an angel, never dies for the angels. God has a different way of responding to the angels. Maybe God responds to other intelligent life differently, just like he responds to angels differently. Maybe he has different ways of dealing with different beings. So it's an option. The third option is the sheep lands on the roof. And so this is a skyscraper because it's in a big city. It's not Chicago or New York. It is Gotham City. And if you've ever watched Gotham, sorry about this, but spoiler alert, I'm going to say something about Gotham. We got into Gotham maybe about season 3 or 4. We actually were sick of it. Even though I love the idea of an origin story of Batman, and there are things I loved about Gotham, the thing I didn't like was that the same character kept dying and coming back, dying and coming back, dying and coming back. Well, some people believe that if there are aliens, that Jesus keeps dying and coming back, dying and coming back, dying and coming back. This one's pretty strange because that means that Jesus would actually take on the form of all these different aliens, that he is nonstop going to planet to planet to planet just to die for all these different planets. It's a little strange. In fact, one of our founding fathers refused to be a Christian partially based off of this theory that he thought was absurd. That guy went by the name of Thomas Paine. He said, this is ludicrous. I can't be a Christian. Unfortunately, Thomas Paine didn't know about these other possibilities for Jesus and aliens. But I'll tell you what, that one is probably my least favorite. But then the fourth one, you imagine the sheep grows the wings, goes on the roof, eats a candy bar. And on that candy bar are the words, 3 Musketeers. Now, I don't know about you, but I know almost nothing about the 3 Musketeers except their slogan or their phrase is one for all and all for one. And I think from that we could actually get one more possibility, is one for all. In Romans 6 even, we see that Jesus died once for all. And so could that all be beyond just humanity, that Jesus died for human beings? We kind of see that throughout the Bible, that when humanity sinned, it affected all of creation. And that Jesus dying makes a difference not just for human beings, but in some way, it actually affects all of creation. What if all of creation isn't just the earth? Could it be that there are aliens on other planets light years away who are worshiping God because Jesus came and took on flesh of humanity, that Jesus became a human being? I don't know. And I know there's a lot of speculation. I know that this is maybe a little out there for you, but all to say that we do serve a big God and that there are mysteries in this universe. There's a lot that we don't know. And could that be a possibility that Jesus died not just for the sins of humanity, but for the sins of beings all over the universe? Maybe. Well, we're going to get to our fourth objection here. And this objection deals with humanity. And this might be the strongest objection. This comes from Paul Davies, who said that Christianity would unravel at the discovery of aliens because Christianity posits that humanity is the pinnacle of everything. And if there's aliens, then that's not true. What do we do with that? What do we do with humanity if aliens exist? Well, this seems actually like a familiar objection. It seems as though throughout history, there's always been this pushback against these discoveries where we realize we're not at the center of the universe. It's like when we discovered that the earth wasn't flat, when we discovered that the earth wasn't at the center of the solar system, that the sun is at the center, the earth revolves around the sun. It seems as though Christians had a hard time dealing with that because it seemed like that pushed humanity to the margins a little more. And so I feel like the discovery of aliens would be a similar thing, where it would push humanity to the margins a little more. And as we come to discover this, we've come to discover more and more just how small we really are. I think of the image that's kind of been known as the pale blue dot. You can see this here, where this is one of the furthest points we've ever gotten a picture from. And you can see that is the Earth, this pale blue dot that just sits on this thread of sunshine. And you look at that and it looks so vulnerable, so insignificant, so small. And yet everything that's ever happened in all of our histories, everybody you've ever known, happened on that dot. Every worry, every fear, every problem exists on that dot. It's all right there. And you see it and you realize we are so small. We're so very small. And here's what I really want to tell you. Is in light of just how small we all are, I want to say that, humanity is not actually the pinnacle of everything. It's not all about humanity. It's all about God. Listen, you may have wanted to hear me say what I thought about aliens, and maybe I've shared a little bit. At the end of the day, I don't know. It's not really that important what I think about aliens. And it's more important to say what you think about God. But even then, at the end of the day, it's not so important what you think about God. What's most important is what David writes in the Psalm 8. He says this, when he looks up to the stars, he says, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the sun and the moon that you have set in place, I think, what is man that you are mindful of him? Or the Son of Man that you care for him? What David's saying is it's not so important what you think of what's going on out there. It's not so important what you think of God. What's most important is what God thinks of you. And so yes, I believe there is a wonder inside of us to look at the stars, to look at the planets and say, wow, there is some mystery there. There's a wonder there. But the real wonder is in who God is. That there would be a God who is three persons in one. That there would be a God who is both transcendent, meaning other, and yet immanent, meaning close. That there would be a God who knows all and is in total control and gives us the freedom to make choice. There is a mystery, there is a wonder in God, but the real wonder isn't even just in that. Isn't even in just who God is. The real wonder is that God who is so big, so mysterious, who holds the universe in his hands, looks down at that pale blue dot and he sees your face and he knows your name and he hears your prayers. The real wonder isn't totally in who God is. The real wonder, to me at least, is what God thinks of you and who you are before God. And yeah, like I said, I'm not totally sure about this whole aliens thing, but man, there's something far more wonderful that our hearts yearn for, is to be known by a God like that.
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
You are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you, oh, I worship you. You are
Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
So Nick talked about today about how God is mindful of you. And today I want to share with you what that really means. It means that he sent his son to this earth 2,000 years ago to die for your sins and for mine. And he rose again 3 days later, conquering death and conquering sin. And he did that to have a relationship with you. So if you'd like to have a relationship, we have a comment in the comment section that you can like, and we'll contact you with more information about what it means to follow Jesus. This month, we are offering what we're calling bonus anchor groups. So we're taking a break from our normal anchor groups, and we're going to be tackling these 3 important subjects: emptiness, mental health, and what it means to really love people. And so I'd love for you to jump on into one of those. You can click the link in the comments for that. It's anchorchurchil.com/groups. You can sign up right there, and then you can jump into a group. If you'd like to give into the mission of Anchor Church, you can do so by clicking the link in the comments. We'd be so appreciative of your gift. Remember to like, share, follow, subscribe, whatever you can do on the platform you're watching on, and we'll see you next time.